trinomials in a certain form. The box I'm about to uncover does not go in the first blank. I did not put a blank, but you're going to write what I'm about to uncover right beside the title of your note. It does not go in the first blank. Is everybody clear on that? So it's going to go, my board's coming on. Maybe. So it's going to go right beside the title, not in this blank. So the polynomials we're going to factor today are three terms, trinomials, just like the problems we worked on the last 2 days. But not just like, I guess I should say, similar to the problems we worked yesterday. They're just like in the fact that it has three terms that we're going to factor, but the 8-5 lesson, there was not a number before the x squared. For the 8-5 lesson, a was equal to 1, so it just looked like, so for 8-5, you don't have to write this, but for 8-5, the trinomials are in the form of x squared plus bx plus c, and that means that a equals 1. So technically there is an a here, but it was 1. Does that make sense, Akira? So these are the ones we've been working on the last 2 days. Now today, there is going to be a number here, all right? The coefficient on the x squared term plus the coefficient on the middle term plus a constant. So let's look down here to my first example, and you guys can go ahead and write that in on yours. We're going to use the first example just to illustrate some of this, to clarify some of the things we're talking about up here. So in this example, the A is 2, and the C is -9. Does that make sense? A is always the coefficient on that squared term, and it should be in the front, so we should write these in a standard form. If for some reason they ask you to factor something that's not in standard form, remember you want to put it in standard form. Biggest exponent on the variable down to least exponent on the variable. Okay. So the next blank is going to say we're going to factor by grouping. But we learned how to factor by grouping the first week back from the break. And to factor by grouping, we need 4 terms. But these only have 3. So the 4th term, we are going to create the 4th term. We are going to rewrite the trinomial as a 4-term polynomial, and we're going to do that by splitting the middle term of the trinomial. Right here. Once we rewrite it with the middle term split, we will have gone from 3 terms to 4 terms, then we can use our factor by grouping step. So how do we do that? The very first thing we're going to do is we're going to multiply A times C. It's going to be kind of difficult if you've not done the factor by grouping yet. So you're going to want to go back and work on that probably before you do this assignment. So we're going to go down to our example we wrote, and we're going to look at the A and C. We indicated 2 with A and -9 with C. So AC means A times C. So for this example, A times C is 2 times -9, or -18. variable x. We're going to look for factors that when we add them, that equal the middle term. The difference about this is we're not using the last term of the trinomial. We have to find the factors of a times c. So we're going to make our triangle this time. And normally we put the negative 9 there, but not if there is a number in front of that first term. So the product has to be negative 18. The sum has to be positive 3 in this case. So let's go back up and add that to our notes. Step 2, we're going to find the factors of a times c that equal the middle coefficient. You do have to show me some work for these. Unless you're filling in a box, so you don't have to factor the whole thing. Make sure you're showing me some work. I need to see what AC is, and I need to see it rewritten as 4 terms. I need to see you dividing by the greatest common factor when you factor by grouping. You guys have a little bit of work you can show me, and a lot of you are not showing me. All right, so we're going to find the factors of negative 18 that equal positive 3. So 1 times, Lee says 3 and 6, and Lee is right. Because since this is a negative 18, one of the factors is negative and one of the factors is positive. So if we use 3 and 6, Lee, which one's going to be negative and which one's going to be positive? 3's got to be negative and 6 has to be positive. Now, when we use this one x before, now these would be part of our answer. These would be part of our factors. Now they're not. Now these are going to be part of our trinomial that we're going to factor. So step 3 says we're going to rewrite the trinomial. So what does that mean? Rewrite the trinomial as 4 terms by splitting the middle term into 2 terms. Each term's coefficient will be one of the factors from step 2. So one of the terms will be negative, coefficient of negative 3. One of the terms will have a coefficient of positive 6. What we're doing is we're rewriting this trinomial as an equivalent 4-term polynomial. So everything's going to be the same except we're going to split this into 2. So 2n squared is going to be the same. So now we need an expression that equals 3n. So minus 3n plus 6n. Do we all agree that that equals 3n? Okay. And then our last term is always the same. Our constant doesn't change. So we have 4 terms, but it's equivalent to our 3-term polynomial here. Does that make sense, Christina? Okay. So now, though, that we have 4 terms, now we can factor by grouping. And if you have your exact notes and you want to get them out, that would be great while you're doing the assignment. We will go over the steps here now in a second. So factor by grouping, that which means we have to group. So we split these 4 terms into 2 groups. Anybody remember what we do next? Science? Very good. You're finding greatest common factor. I'm going through. I'm going to go ahead and give myself my answer parentheses right here. So what is the greatest common factor of the first group, Anson? What's the greatest common factor of the first group? Say again? 1 or n, yeah. So it's n, actually, right? So there's not a greatest common factor numerically, but there is a greatest common factor for the variable. Good. What's the greatest common factor for the second group? Kendall? 6n and negative 9. Yes, 3. And it's a positive 3, that's positive, so plus 3. Now we need another factor. We know we factor 4 terms. So factor the two binomials. Please drop your phone in your test. Can you see? Drop your phone in. All right. How are we going to find the next factor? Do you remember, Jaden? Say it again. No. Hey, Kara? Tunisia? I see you guys. You're next. Very good. You take these first two terms and divide it by the greatest common factor of those first two terms, n and n. So the 2's got to come along because there's nothing to divide out of that. N squared divided by n is just n, and that makes sense because n times 2n is 2n squared, right? Now negative 3 divided by negative 3n divided by n divided by n cancels out. That's negative 3 times 1. So that's minus 3. Certainly can. We asked if Lincoln is homework and we could do it on a piece of paper and you can. Yes, you would translate, yes. All right, any questions on number 2? Example, that first example. All right, we're going to do another example. So just like any other time we're factoring, if there's something we can factor out of all 3 terms, we're going to do that. There are a few exceptions to that rule. It's a real world problem, and we're going to do an example of that at the end. All right, so we have a trinomial, 3 terms, try. There's not a common factor that will come out of all of them. It has a number in front of the n squared, so we're going to use our strategy we just learned. Okay? Step 1, multiply a times c. So what is a and what is c here? Before I said a is 5 and 12 is c. Everybody agree? That's right. So AC means A times C, so that's 5 times 12, and it's a positive 60. All right, AC we've done, check. Now, find the factors of AC, in this case 60, that equal the middle coefficient. So give ourselves our little X. So our product is 60, and what is the middle coefficient? What's the middle coefficient, Danielle? 19, very good. So we're looking for factors of 60 that equal 19. Positive 60, positive 19. For positive, they both have to be positive, they both have to be negative. Then this is a positive, so both have to be positive. Lee? It is 15 and 4. So if you're stumped, just list the factors of 60. Lee says 15 times 4 is 60. He's correct. And 15 plus 4 is 19. So that's what I need. So 15 and 4 go here. Next, rewrite the trinomial as 4 terms by splitting the middle term. Anybody want to give it a whirl? Can you tell me how to rewrite it as 4 terms? Okay, Sean? The 5 and squared has to stay the same. So we need something that equals 19n, right, Tushan? And we said we're going to use 15 and 4, but we can't just use a number of 15 and 4, Jacoy? Or 15n plus 12. Yes, that will work. Could we swap the 4a and 15n? We could. Okay, so now it's 4 terms. Right, so now, after we rewrote it, now we factor by grouping. So the next step, group. And this is what we did last week. So I'm going through that a little bit quicker because we've already worked on that for 2 days and gone over it today as well. What's the next step here? What's the next step here, Fatima? Sorry? Pulling out a greatest common factor of each group, right? What's the greatest common factor of the first group? Annabelle? N, exactly right. 4 and 5 don't have any common factors, so we can't put a numerical common factor. What's the biggest common factor of the last group, Brooklyn? Remember, if you get stumped, if the teacher puts you on the spot and you get a little nervous, list the factors. 1 and 15, and 3 and 5. Those are the factors of 15, right, Brooklyn? The factors of 12. 1 and 12, and 3 and 4, right? So what is the biggest number that they have in common, Brooklyn? The biggest number that's the same. 3, that's right. So the positive 3, so it's plus 3. So that's your first factor of the trinomial. How do I find my second factor, Naya? Do you remember? What are we dividing by n? Perfect. N and n. So nothing to divide the 5 by, so I bring it along. N squared divided by n is n. Nothing divided by 4, 5, positive 4, so I'm going to put the 4 there. And n divided by n is 1, so 4 times 1 is 4. So that's it. So for each of these problems, you should have some variation of this work. Is everybody clear on that? I do want to see that you've divided by the greatest common factor for that first group to get your second factor. Sorry? Yeah, and if you don't think you have room on there, you can use another piece of paper and scan and submit it, okay? Not until it's over there, no, since we are going for next step. All right, we're going to do one more example, and then we're going to do one of your homework problems, and then if you want to do, we can do a couple more homework problems if we have time. All right, so the last example, go put that in your notes. And then I want you guys to go ahead and tell me what A and C are, and tell me what it equals. The first step is multiply A times C. What is the A in this example? What is the C in this example? What's the A in this example, Slum? It is 2. Put the number here. So 2 times, what's the C in this example, Jeremiah? What's the C in this example? Very good. There's 2, A is a 2, and C is 2. So AC is A times C, and that equals 4. So if that is our product, we need factors of that, and if you add them together, you get what? What should you get if you're adding together the products of 4? What's the middle coefficient? 5, that's right. So we're looking for product of 4 and the sum of 5, the same numbers. So the factors of 4, 1 times 4 and 2 times 2, they are both positive, so I don't have to worry about signs. So which pair of factors am I going to use? Diane? 4 and 1. So 4 and 1. Order doesn't matter there, right? Okay, so the next step says we're going to rewrite as a 4-term polynomial by splitting this middle term. So instead of 5n, what are we going to have here? Instead of 5n, what are we going to have here? Ansley? What are we going to write instead of 5n when we rewrite? How are we going to split up 5n? No? So we're going to start, we have to have this first term the same, right? The question is, how am I going to rewrite this? Can you tell me? Nicole? Plus 4n, don't forget your n, plus 2, that's exactly right, because this is the same as that, right? N plus 4n is 5n. So now, once we have 4 terms, now we can go back and use our steps for factoring by grouping. So factoring by grouping, the name implies we group, and that's what we're going to do. What's the next step? Diane says it's the greatest common factor. I'm assuming of each group, right, Diane? Look at my answer out here. What's the greatest common factor of this group, Sedarian? What's the greatest common factor of 2n squared plus n? Numerically, it would be 1. What about for the variable? No. So remember, 2n squared is the same as 2 times n times n. Does that make sense, buddy? Okay. And n, it's just n, right? So the greatest common factor is just that 1n. Does that make sense? So n goes here. What's the greatest common factor of this group, Brooklyn? Very good, 2. And so it's positive 2 because that's positive. Now how am I going to find the next factor? Stephen, can you help me? What am I dividing? By what? Yep, 2n squared divided by n. What else? So 2 isn't divided by anything, so I have to leave that. N squared divided by n is n. N divided by n, in this case, is 2 divided by n is 1, and that's plus 1. So if I multiply these together, I get 2n squared. This is just our check. You don't have to do this for them, but you could. So 2n squared plus n plus 4n plus 2, and you'll see if you combine those, because they're like terms, 2n squared plus 5n plus 2, that is what we started with up here. Okay, so this in the box is the answer. This is how we can check it if we have time on a test to see if we have it right. Any questions? Okay. We are going to go through and we're going to do, you'll look at the back page of your homework. It's actually a problem that doesn't have a number stuck in between I think 16 and 18, so it's a good example of a word problem. We're going to do that one. Nope. There's not a lot of room on here. So I'd like for you to go to the back of your worksheet and just do it at the bottom here, right? So we're going to write example here, and that one you can put on the back. So type example here. Give yourself enough room to work this last problem, but then write the example here, and I'll tell you what to write, okay? So in your paper, you have the word example, so that's where we're going to start. This says the area of a rectangular book is 4x squared minus 6x minus 40. The width of the book cover is 2x minus 8. What is the length of the book cover? So let's give ourselves a book. The name of my book, some Harry Potter, I don't know which, we're just going to call it HP. It's a rectangle, right? But most books are rectangular. Tells us the width of the book is 2x minus 8. We'll put parentheses around that. Wants us to give them the length of the book. So that would be this other dimension, right? This and this would be the same. This and this would be the same in a rectangle. The information that they give us that allows us to find the length is this area. Remember, the area of a rectangle is length times width. So you're writing everything that I'm writing. So we know that 2x minus 8 times another binomial is going to equal the area 4x squared minus 6x minus 40. So we've got to figure out what is the length. Any questions? There may be a shortcut here. Oh, let me bring this up. So I told you when we factor, we always look through here and see if there's a common factor. Is there a common factor on all those terms? There is, right? There's a 2. But this is the one time, this is the exception to that rule. We're not going to pull out a factor because we only can have 2 factors. If we pull out a greatest common factor, we're going to have 3, right? This is one of the factors. We're just trying to figure out what the other one is. So we're not going to pull out the greatest common factor. We're going to use this as the A, this as the C, and find our other factor. Make sense? So AC is 4 times negative 40. And you might can work out a shortcut on this if you on problems like this. If you do, just make sure you share enough work so I can follow your logic. We're not going to take a shortcut here. I do know that this is going to have to be 2x here, right? Because the only way to get 4x squared here is if this is 2x. Pretty sure this has got to be a positive as well, right? Because this is a negative. So I know it's going to be plus, but I don't know plus what. Okay? AC is negative 160. I'm going to use that as my product. My sum is negative 6. So I need 2 numbers that if I multiply them together, I get 160. And if I add them, I get a negative 6. Remember, since this is negative, one of my factors has to be positive and one has to be negative. Okay? 1 times 160. Just go through and start listing. I did not know, I still can't even remember all the factors of 160. 4 and 40. I know 5 is a factor because it ends in 0, so 160 divided by 5 is 32. So as I'm going through, they need to be pretty close, right? 5 minus 32, 4 minus 40. Those would be negative, but they would not be at small of a number. So I got to keep going. 8 times 20, 10 times 6, not 10 times 6, 10 times 16, right? Look at that one. Does that have a difference of 6? 10 minus 16 would be negative 6. So that is the pair of factors we need. So we need 10 and negative 16. So now we're going to rewrite 4x squared and our middle term is going to be plus 10x minus 16x and then minus 40. So we're just doing the same thing as we've been doing. We're going to group. And we're going to find the greatest common factor of this group. For the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that 2x, the greatest common factor of this one is going to be negative 4, because that's a negative. Is that right? This 16 won't come out of 40, negative 4. Okay. So now I'm dividing this by 2x, this by 2x. So that is 2x. That is a positive. Oh, it's not 4, it's 8, isn't it? Y'all got to catch me when I make a mistake. Need some help. Are we packing out? Anyway, we'll finish this. What did I do wrong there? 2x. Yeah, this one's plus 5. Minus 8, and this is 2x plus 5. So make sure you have the answer, because that is one of your homework problems, to have that example on there. So the length then is a 2x plus 5, because we know the width was 2x minus 8. So the length is 2x plus 5. See y'all tomorrow.